A few weeks ago, I went camping in Redwood National Park. I love being outside and taking photos of nature. I thought I knew what to expect, but this trip changed everything. I drove deep into the park and found a secluded spot. The trees were massive, and the sunlight barely reached the ground. I set up my tent, feeling excited to be away from the city. When evening fell, I lit a fire and sat back. It felt peaceful. Around midnight, I thought I heard laughter. It echoed through the trees. I looked around but couldn't see anyone. I shrugged it off, convinced it was just my mind playing tricks. I focused on the stars and captured the night sky with my camera. The next day was perfect. The trails were beautiful, and I snapped photos of birds and deer. When I returned to my tent that evening, though, unease settled over me. I could almost swear I heard footsteps around my campsite. I looked but found nothing. I felt a chill run through me. That night, the laughter came again. It sounded closer this time. I tried to tell myself it was just the wind, but my heart raced. Sleep wouldn't come. I felt eyes on me, like someone was watching. I just wished I could shake this feeling. The next morning, I found strange symbols on a tree nearby. They looked old, like they belonged to some long-lost culture. I wanted to take a photo but felt dread wash over me. I snapped a picture anyway. I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't belong there. When night fell again, the laughter was louder, almost mocking. I felt trapped. The fire barely pushed back the shadows. I started packing my gear, thinking it wasn't worth staying another night. Suddenly, I heard rustling outside my tent. My heart was pounding. I stepped outside, scanning the area. I didn't see anything, but the woods felt alive. There was a figure standing between the trees, a man, I thought. I asked if he needed help. He didn't answer. I felt my breath catch in my throat. I didn't want to approach him, but something pulled me to stay. I blinked, and he was gone. I felt dizzy, like I had stepped into another world. I turned around, wishing it was just my imagination. But the woods felt wrong. I quickly went back inside my tent. My hands shook as I zipped it closed. I didn't know what was out there, but I was sure of one thing: I wasn't staying another night. I packed the rest of my gear and got in my car. As I drove home, my mind raced. I still think about the laughter. I still think about the figure. I can't explain what happened in those woods. It's like a puzzle that never fits together. I wonder who or what I disturbed that night. I just can't forget it. The next few days after my camping trip were a blur. I found it hard to concentrate. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear that laughter ringing in my ears, and the image of the figure slipped further into my mind. I decided I needed to clear my head, so I went for a walk in my neighborhood. As I strolled, I noticed the trees lining the street looked smaller compared to those in the park. Suddenly, the idea struck me I should look up more about the symbols I saw on that tree. Maybe there was some explanation, something that would make the experience less unsettling. When I got home, I dove into research online. I found some articles about the indigenous history of Redwood National Park. There were stories about rituals, and legends about spirits that roamed the woods, guardians of the land, they called them. The description sent chills down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had disturbed something sacred, and the thought made me anxious. Later that evening, I received a text from my friend Jenna, asking if I wanted to join her at a cafe. I jumped at the chance to get out of the house. The moment I walked in, the familiar smell of coffee filled the air. I ordered my drink, grateful for the distraction. As we sat down, I hesitated to mention my trip. But then Jenna shared her own recent camping experience. She spoke about strange noises at night, much like my own encounters. She mentioned a friend who swore she'd seen something moving in the dark, a shadow that didn't belong. My heart raced as I listened. Could more people have experienced this eeriness in the woods? I leaned in, telling her everything: the laughter, the symbols, the figure. She listened intently and then furrowed her brow. "Did you take a picture of the symbols?" she asked. I nodded. "You should share it with the local history group. They might know what you found." That night, curiosity gnawed at me. What if there was a deeper connection to those symbols? I got on the computer again and joined the local history group S forum. I posted the picture along with a brief explanation of my experience. Minutes turned into hours while I waited for responses. As I stared at the screen, I felt a strange heaviness settle over me. It felt different than fear. I couldn't quite explain it. Then, a notification pinged. I quickly clicked on the message. "Those markings are connected to a local legend. You shouldn't have been in that area alone." My breath caught in my throat. The message continued: "Come to the meeting tomorrow night if you want to know more." I stared at my screen, a mix of dread and excitement swirling within me. What legend? Why should I be concerned? Should I even go? That night, I lay in bed, and once again, the laughter echoed in my ears. It felt closer, almost as if it was inviting me to return. I needed answers, but at what cost? The night dragged on, my mind spinning with thoughts. I barely slept, tossing and turning with Jenna's words still replaying in my head. The invitation to the meeting gnawed at me, and when dawn finally broke, I felt a knot in my stomach. I spent the day distracted. I went to work but could hardly focus on anything. The clock's ticking felt like it was mocking me, each minute reminding me that the meeting was just hours away. By the time I got home, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across my room. As I stood in front of the mirror, I debated with myself. Should I really go? I had no idea what the meeting would be like or what kind of people would be there. But my curiosity won. I needed to know more about those symbols, about the legend that seemed to haunt me. When I arrived at the small community center, I noticed a handful of people milling around. They whispered in clusters, their expressions serious. I felt slightly out of place but pushed through the door anyway. It was cramped inside with folding chairs set up in a circle. A projector flickered against one wall, showing faded images of Redwood National Park. I took a seat in the back, and soon after, a woman in her 60s stepped up to the front. She had sharp features and a commanding presence. "Welcome, everyone," she said. "Tonight we share our experiences with the legend of the Whispering Spirits." A chill ran through me. Whispering spirits? Was that what I had encountered? The woman continued. "Many of you have seen symbols in the woods. These are not just markings, they are warnings. Those who ignore them often find themselves lost or worse." Gasps filled the room, but there was a dark curiosity in their eyes, not fear. I shifted uncomfortably in my chair. Was I in over my head? As the meeting progressed, people shared their stories. Some spoke of feeling watched, while others described shadows darting between the trees. Each tale left me more unsettled. I felt those familiar sensations creeping back: the laughter, the symbols, the figure moving in the dark. Finally, one man stood up, a rugged guy with a weathered face. "I saw them last month," he said, his voice low. "They were dancing around a fire, laughing. If they think you're trespassing, they may take you." I could feel my heartbeat quicken. What did he mean by take you? It sounded ridiculous, but the fear in his eyes was real. When the woman at the front opened the floor for questions, I couldn't hold back. "Have you seen them?" I asked. "The figures? The ones from the stories?" She nodded slowly, her gaze steady. "Many have. But remember, once you see, they know you've seen. You're tied to the land now. You must respect it." Then, everything felt heavy. The lights flickered, and I could swear I heard faint giggles echoing from somewhere outside. It stopped me in my tracks. Was it an illusion? Or was it really happening? "Are you all right?" Jenna whispered, stopping me from spiraling. I turned to her, but her concerned expression only added to my unease. That's when I realized everything was connected, and I was in deeper than I ever intended. Just as I was about to ask more, the lights went out completely. A murmur of confusion swept through the group, but dread settled deep in my chest. I fumbled for my phone, but before I could switch it on, I heard the laughter, louder this time, coming from outside. Panic gripped me. Was it too late to turn back? The darkness wrapped around us like a heavy blanket. I could hear the whispers growing louder, voices mingling with that eerie laughter outside. My heart raced. I felt trapped in the room, surrounded by strangers who seemed to welcome the shadows creeping closer. "Stay calm," Jenna murmured beside me, her voice barely audible. But the tremor in her tone betrayed her composure. I could see her silhouette, eyes wide with uncertainty. Suddenly, a flickering light caught my attention. I turned just in time to see the woman at the front, her face illuminated for a fleeting second as she pulled out a flashlight from her bag. "Everyone, remain seated," she instructed. "We'll wait for the power to come back. No one should move around." I wanted to listen. I really did. But that laughter, it was too close. Like a whisper in my ear, it seemed directed at me. An urge to escape surged within me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting outside the figures the man spoke of, perhaps. As I wrestled with my thoughts, a sudden crash echoed from the entrance. The door burst open, sending a gust of cold air into the center. My body froze as a figure stepped into the room. The flashlight beam bounced off their face, nothing but a shadow with hollow eyes. Gasps erupted from the group. "Who are you?" shouted the woman. "What do you want?" The figure just stood there, its form shifting and indistinct, like smoke caught in a breeze. It took a small step forward, still silent. I glanced around. Some people looked terrified, others seemed entranced, as if the darkness held a magnetism that pulled at them. I should go." My voice came out weak. I pushed my chair back and stood. I needed to leave, to find the safety of the streetlights outside. But as I turned toward the entrance, I was met with the cold realization that the figure was blocking my escape. In a burst of panic, I reached for my phone, desperate for light. But before I could shine the screen, the lights flickered back on, revealing the room in its entirety. The figure was gone, evaporated into thin air as if it had never been there at all. Silence hung in the air, and people looked around in confusion. "What just happened?" someone asked, their voice trembling. Jenna turned to me, her eyes wide. "Did you see it too?" "I don't know," I admitted, feeling a chill run down my spine. "But I can't stay here." I moved toward the door, but the woman held up a hand. "We must stick together. The legends are real. If you leave now, you're on your own. They could be lurking out there." Her words hit hard. I had come seeking answers, but now I felt the weight of dread closing in on me. I hesitated, torn between safety and the inexplicable draw of the darkness outside, and that's when I heard it again, a distant laughter drifting through the walls, echoing my confusion, my fear. It was a reminder that whatever sought me knew I was here. But so did I. "Stay or go, it's your choice," I finally whispered to Jenna. "But I can't ignore this. Not anymore." Her gaze met mine, uncertainty mixing with determination. And in that moment, I realized we had both crossed a line into the unknown. Whatever lurked outside was growing impatient, and I knew one thing for sure: the answers I sought were waiting for us in the darkness. The room felt stifling, the air thick with confusion and dread. I could hardly breathe. Jenna clutched my arm, her fingers digging in like a vice. "We can't leave," she whispered, glancing nervously at the woman in charge. "Maybe they're gone now." But I wasn't convinced. The laughter still echoed faintly in my ears, like a promise of more terrors to come. I took a deep breath, scanning the faces around me. Some were still wide-eyed, others had shut down, distant. The unease made it hard to focus. "Listen," the woman said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We need to talk about what we just saw. The stories are older than any of us. This darkness, it's real. And it's clearly come for something. Maybe it's come for us," I muttered under my breath, barely coherent with my rising panic. Jenna nodded, her face mirroring my fear. "Speaking of stories," someone piped up from the back. A tall man, lanky with tousled hair. "I heard the old tales about the woods. They say if you venture too far at night, you draw them out. The things in the dark." He recounted a chilling story from a camping trip, how a group of friends had jokingly dared each other to wander into the woods after sunset. When they returned, 2 were missing, and they left with a story of laughter that turned into screaming. I could see the fear settle over the group like a shroud. That memory struck me. Could it be connected to whatever was happening now? I fought against the swell of dread. What if this is just a prank? I interrupted, my voice cutting through the gloom. What if someone is trying to scare us? But the look in Jenna's eyes told me she didn't believe that. I wish. Just as I was about to continue, the lights flickered again, leaving us in a half-light. The laughter came back, sharper and more defined, this time a chorus surrounding the building, wrapping around us like chilling fingers. Then everything plunged into darkness again. My heart raced, I felt trapped, like prey cornered by an unseen predator. Panic gripped me, and I didn't know which way to turn. I reached for Jenna's hand but felt only air. "Jenna?" I called. "Where are you?" I was met with silence, the laughter now echoing all around. I stumbled forward, desperate, feeling my way through the murky blackness. The air carried a scent I didn't recognize, something earthy, damp, and rotten. My foot caught on something, and I crashed to the ground, scraping my palms against the cold floor. I gasped, my breath hanging in the stillness. In that quiet, I heard a soft murmur, barely above a whisper. "It's here." I froze, a wave of terror washing over me. Was it one of the others? Or something else? Struggling to steady my mind, I pushed against the ground, looking for Jenna. Then I felt a hand, cold and clammy, grip my wrist. "Help me," came a voice, desperate and familiar. I was flooded with relief mixed with fear. "Jenna?" I asked, but it was muffled. The laugh rose again, louder, mocking. Before I could react, the lights surged back on. The room was as it had been, everyone in their chairs, eyes on me. But Jenna was gone. Panic surged as I searched the room. Where could she have gone? And then it struck me, what if the stories were true? I needed to find her. Whatever was out there was playing games, and I was determined to beat it at its own. My heart raced as I dodged people toward the door. But the laughter returned, intertwining with my thoughts. "You shouldn't have stayed." I hesitated, and that moment of doubt cost me. I'd have to get out, venture into the dark. With one last glance at the bewildered faces behind, I opened the door and stepped into the blackness outside, where the laughter echoed endlessly, beckoning me deeper into the night. The night air hit me like a cold slap as I stepped outside. A shiver ran down my spine. The laughter swirled around me, taunting, echoing through the trees that surrounded the building. I felt exposed, out in the open with everything that might be lurking in the dark. "Jenna!" I shouted, my voice mixing with the chilling echoes. But only silence returned. I scanned the woods just beyond the building, the moonlight casting eerie shadows that danced among the branches. Where could she be? Taking a shaky breath, I took a step forward, heart racing. The soft crunch of leaves underfoot felt unnaturally loud. As I walked, the laughter faded slightly, almost as if it were retreating. I pushed forward, drawn into the darkness like a moth to a flame. The air turned colder as I ventured deeper. My mind raced with possibilities. Had Jenna seen something? Had she run into trouble? I cursed myself for not trying harder to hold on to her. Panic clawed at my throat, then I heard it again, the whisper. This way. It was faint but unmistakable. My heart skipped a beat. It sounded like Jenna. Jenna. I called again, more hopeful this time. I hesitated, listening closely. The voice was distant but growing clearer. Following it seemed like the only option. I had to reach her, that I quickened my pace, the brush of damp grass against my legs sending a spark of fear through me. The trees loomed like ghosts, their branches reaching out as if trying to warn me. Just ahead, I saw a faint light flickering. I approached cautiously. It could be anything, someone else, or maybe something far worse. My instincts told me to turn back. But Jenna's voice called out again, insistent and desperate. Help me. As I reached the light, I stumbled into a small clearing. There, in the center, stood an old lantern, its flickering flame casting twisted shadows. But there was no one else around. I felt a wave of disappointment wash over me. Jenna? I whispered, my voice trembling. In that moment, the air changed. It thickened, and I could almost hear the heartbeat of the woods around me. Then something moved in the shadows behind the lantern. I squinted but saw nothing. Just a whisper of movement, like a breath passing through unseen lips. Keep going, the voice echoed again, but this time it was different. It wasn't Jenna's. It sounded younger, teasing, like a child's giggle. You can find her, it sang. A chill crawled up my spine. My gut screamed to run. But I took a couple of cautious steps forward, drawn to whatever was hiding in the dark. Suddenly, the lantern flickered violently, casting a blinding light that momentarily illuminated the clearing. I caught a glimpse of something small darting between the trees, a figure just out of reach. That's when I saw it, a flash of red fabric. My heart leaped, hope surging within me. Jenna! I yelled again, my voice stronger, more determined. But the figure vanished, swallowed by the shadows. Come find me, the giggle echoed again, now a sinister whisper. I stood frozen, confusion and fear bubbling inside me. I had to make a choice. Should I chase after it, or head back for help? With a resolve that surprised me, I clenched my fists and pressed forward into the darkness, the laughter pulsating around me. Little did I know, whatever was leading me deeper into the woods had no intention of letting me leave. I moved deeper into the woods, the laughter trailing behind me like a cloak. Each step felt heavier, the ground littered with damp leaves that crunched underfoot. I scanned the trees, hoping for another glimpse of the red fabric. It had to be Jenna. Please, where are you? I whispered, desperation creeping into my tone. The night thickened around me, swallowing the world whole. The flickering light from the lantern faded into the distance, replaced by an overwhelming darkness. I stumbled, instinctively reaching for a nearby tree to steady myself. A dry branch snapped under my hand, the sound sharp and unexpected. I flinched, every noise amplifying my dread. A sudden chill swept through, tangling with the silence. It felt wrong. I turned, and that's when I caught movement to my left. A figure emerged from the shadows, a boy, not much older than 10, wearing a tattered shirt and shorts. His face was hidden in the dim light, obscured by a mop of dark hair that fell over his eyes. Are you lost? He asked in a sing-song voice that pierced through my fear. His tone was odd, light yet filled with an unspoken edge that I took a cautious step back. Have you seen a girl? Jenna? The boy giggled, but then he frowned. No one can find her here. You should go back home. It's not safe. His warning sent a shiver down my spine. You're here, aren't you? I retorted, trying to give my voice some steadiness. If it's not safe, then you shouldn't be here either. He tilted his head, a sly grin creeping across his face. I like it here. He shifted, and in that moment, a flicker of moonlight caught something metallic around his neck, something that looked like a locket. My heart dropped. Was it familiar? Wait, I took another tentative step forward. What's that? Is it from her? He paused, studying me with curiosity. If you want to see her, you have to play a game. A game? My mind raced. I didn't trust him or this place. But with Jenna's safety hanging in the balance, I couldn't walk away. What kind of game? Find the path, he said, stepping aside to reveal a narrow trail weaving deeper into the woods. Follow it, and you'll hear her again. I hesitated. The boy's expression shifted, the grin fading. You won't want to wait too long. They don't like it. His eyes darted to the tree line beyond, an unspoken fear lurking beneath the surface. Who doesn't like it? I felt a knot forming in my stomach, but before I could press further, the boy turned away, his laughter echoing as he darted into the shadows. I was left standing alone, the air thickening with an unsettling energy. The deeper I went, the more I could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching me, when I heard it a soft sob, unmistakable in the night. Help me, it was Jenna. My pulse quickened as I darted toward the sound, fueled by a mix of hope and dread. But with each step, the air grew heavier, the shadows warping around me. Suddenly, everything went dark. I stumbled, disoriented, the forest engulfing me completely. My heartbeat was the only sound in the silence. I reached out, desperate to find something, anything. Then, behind me, I heard it again, a low, unsettling giggle, weaving itself into the night. Come find us. I wasn't alone anymore. I felt the ground beneath me shift, as if the forest itself had a pulse. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and listened for any sign of Jenna. The sobbing had stopped. Instead, there was an eerie stillness, like the calm before a storm. Jenna? I called out, my voice trembling. Nothing replied but the rustle of leaves above, and the low whisper of wind weaving through the trees. I could feel the shadows closing in, pressing against my skin like a heavy fog. Then, a sound snapped my attention back. It was a soft thump, followed by a dragging noise. My heart raced as I turned towards the direction of the sound, my mind racing with possibilities. What was happening out here? Was it the boy playing his game, or something darker? I moved cautiously toward the noise, each step a struggle against the growing dread. As I pushed through a cluster of bushes, when I saw a light flickering in the distance. For a brief moment, I felt my hope surge again. Maybe it was Jenna or someone else who could help me. I had to get to it. As I stepped closer, the light pulsed like a heartbeat, flickering in and out. It was coming from a clearing, and I stumbled towards it, my feet catching on roots and stones. Just as I broke through the last of the underbrush, an overwhelming chill swept through the clearing, making me shudder. In the center stood a circle of stones, an old fire pit. The light was coming from inside, casting flickering shadows on the trees. My breath caught in my throat. Then I saw them, figures around the fire, their heads bent low, as if in conversation. They were too shadowy to make out clearly, but I could feel their eyes shifting towards me as I stepped into the clearing. My stomach twisted with fear. Jenna? I called out again, voice breaking. The figures turned sharply, and their faces emerged momentarily from the shadows, all children. They looked uncanny, with wide eyes that reflected the light like polished stones. Are you lost? One of them asked, a girl who looked eerily similar to Jenna but different somehow. Her smile was too wide, stretching in a way that sent shivers down my spine. I'm looking for Jenna, my sister. I cried, desperate. The children's laughter echoed, but it wasn't playful. It was harsh, like echoes bouncing off unseen walls. She's here, said another boy, but there was a hint of malice in his tone. She chose to stay. Stay. Where is she? I took a step back, my heart racing. Join us, the first girl said, her voice softening, almost inviting, but there was something else in it, something dark. You can play our game. I glanced around the fire pit, noticing what looked like remnants of burnt items, pieces of clothing, scraps of fabric, and other belongings I couldn't identify. A sinking feeling washed over me. Play your game. I repeated, backing away slowly. The children stepped closer, shadows merging with shadows, the flickering light dancing erratically in their eyes. "You can't run," one whispered, and the pitch of their laughter grew louder, wrapping around me like a curtain. "Please!" I shouted, my voice trembling. "I just want Jenna. Where is she?" In that moment, everything shifted. The laughter stopped, replaced by silence so thick I could barely breathe. And then, the child who hadn't spoken took a step forward, eyes narrowing. "You'll find out soon enough." The air grew heavy, and I sensed a shift from anticipation to inevitability. Someone else was here, watching from the shadows, and they were not friendly. That I turned to run, breaking into a sprint, but I could feel them close behind. The darkness of the woods seemed to whisper secrets as I stumbled back into the trees. I had to find Jenna, but at what cost? I didn't stop running until I was gasping for breath, my lungs burning like they were on fire. The forest closed in around me, branches clawing at my clothes, the underbrush snagging at my feet. I had to focus, had to shake off the feeling that those children were right behind me, their laughter turning into whispers that followed in the darkness. "Jenna!" I yelled, calling her name over and over. Each cry felt more desperate, less hopeful. The only response was the rustling of leaves, but even that somehow felt mocking now. After what felt like an eternity sprinting through the maze of trees, I stumbled into another clearing. This one was different, stark and empty, illuminated only by the dim light of the moon filtering through the branches. It felt like a graveyard of memories, completely still, as if time had frozen. That I paused, hands on my knees, trying to catch my breath. My heart pounded in my ears, and I strained to listen for any sounds. The echoes of the children's laughter faded, but I couldn't shake the grim sensation that I was being watched. That's when I noticed something glinting in the moonlight at the far edge of the clearing. Cautiously, I approached, wiping sweat from my brow. As I got closer, I realized it was a metal object partially buried in the ground. I dropped to my knees and grabbed it, pulling it free. A watch. A silver wristwatch, cold and wet from the earth. That looked familiar, too familiar. This was Jenna's watch. I remembered it from a birthday long ago, how she had been so excited to wear it. My stomach twisted. "Jenna!" I screamed again, dread creeping in like a shadow swallowing the moonlight. Where was she? A rustle in the underbrush made me freeze. I turned my head quickly, heart hammering. "Jenna?" I said softly, panic threading through my words. What if it was one of the creepy kids? Then I saw a silhouette emerge from the darkness, tall, but hard to make out. My mind raced with possibilities. Could it be her? I stumbled back, clutching the watch tightly. The figure stepped forward, revealing a girl with tangled hair and dirt smudged across her face. My heart sank. It wasn't Jenna. It was another child, and the way she looked at me sent chills down my spine. Her wide eyes held a strange mix of fear and something else. "You found it," she whispered, voice barely audible. "Do you know where she is?" I asked, desperation flooding my tone. "Please, I need to find her." The girl shook her head, a flicker of sadness crossing her face. "They won't let you." "What do you mean?" I pleaded, stepping closer. "Once you see the watch, you're part of the game. You can't escape," she said, almost apologetically. "You should have run far away." A sudden realization hit me. The game wasn't just for them. It was for me too. Panic surged, and I turned to bolt back into the trees, but a cold hand gripped my wrist. The girl's eyes were locked on mine, and I felt a wave of sorrow wash over me. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the flickering light again. The fire pit. It was calling to me. A sense of hopelessness filled my chest. I didn't think I could fight it. "Come back!" The girl shouted, but her voice faded as I ran. The forest opened up in front of me, shadows twisting in all directions. I had to make a choice, follow the light or continue searching through the darkness. In that moment, just as I made my decision, I heard the laughter again. It came from everywhere, echoing through the trees, and for the first time, I truly felt trapped. The laughter surrounded me like an invisible fog, mocking my every step. I darted through the trees, heart pounding, not knowing if I was running towards safety or deeper into peril. Fear coursed through my veins, but I couldn't think about that now. I had to find Jenna. I stumbled into a clearer part of the woods, the moonlight above casting ghostly beams that illuminated my path. It took me a moment to catch my breath before I called out again, "Jenna." The sound of branches snapping behind me made me turn like a startled animal. I squinted into the darkness, feeling a deep sense of foreboding. It was as if the shadows themselves were shifting, gathering, preparing to pounce. Shaking my head to dispel the panic, I pressed on, determined to find her before the woods turned against me completely. Suddenly, a flash of red caught my eye. Jenna's jacket, hanging from a low branch of a gnarled tree. Relief rushed through me for a split second before doubt crept back in. I darted toward it, but fear gripped me harder as I neared. The laughter now felt like a drumbeat in my ears, relentless and mocking. I grasped the jacket and held it close, whispering her name like a mantra. "Jenna! Where are you?" As if on cue, the laughter swelled again, cheeky and playful, spiraling through the trees above. The sound diverted my attention. I turned to look deeper into the shadows beyond the jacket, desperation uncoiling in my chest. "You can find her, if you just play," a voice echoed, eerily familiar, but it wasn't Jenna's. My heart sank as I realized it belonged to the boy I had encountered earlier. I wasn't about to let this twisted game ensnare me again. Then why instinct screamed at me to run, but instead, I dug my heels into the ground. I would not give in. Gripping Jenna's jacket, I stood tall and called into the depths of the forest, "You think you can scare me? I'm not afraid of you. Show yourself." The woods fell silent. Even the laughter seemed to vanish, leaving a stillness that wrapped around me like a blanket. My chest heaved as I strained to listen. Was it over? Had I finally scared whatever was haunting these woods? Didn't anyone teach you that you shouldn't follow lights in the dark? A voice whispered from the shadows, and I spun around, breath hitching. A figure materialized, just beyond the edge of the moonlight. A group of children, their faces twisted with mirth that felt more sinister than joyful. "Join us, and you might find her," the girl I thought looked like Jenna said, her smile stretching impossibly wide. "The game is just beginning." "No!" I shouted, shock and defiance fueling my voice. "You can't have her. I want to let you take her." The children erupted in laughter, circling around me. The echo of their excitement danced between the trees. But as I clutched the jacket tighter, I noticed something glimmering nearby, an old compass, half buried in the ground by roots that twisted like skeletal fingers. My heart raced as I snatched it up, instinctively feeling it was a sign, a way out. The needle twitched frantically, spinning, before finally settling in a direction that led deeper into the woods, away from the children. "Not that way," they chimed, voices harmonizing in a twisted chant. "You can't leave." With renewed determination, I turned away from their claims, instinctively trusting the compass. They were only shadows, I told myself. I could slip past them. My feet pounded against the earth as I began to run again, holding the compass tightly. As I dashed through tangled bushes and thick undergrowth, I dared not look back at the taunting figures. The laughter transformed into cries, joined by whispers that drifted just beyond my hearing. "Come play with us, stay with us." The shadows pulled at the edges of my vision, growing closer, but I didn't falter. I could feel Jenna was close, the compass needle pointed with uncanny precision. With each step, I could feel the air shift, the darkness deepened, but the echoes of laughter seemed to fade. My pulse was thunderous in my ears as I broke through the tree line into a more open area, startlingly illuminated by the full moon, and there, in the center, was a small clearing with two figures standing motionless, illuminated by the silvery light. My heart dropped as I recognized Jenna's silhouette. She looked disheveled but unharmed. Relief flooded me, but it quickly turned to confusion as I found myself staring at the other figure, a darker presence almost transparent, almost shimmering. A wisp of shadow. Jenna! I screamed, running towards her. As I moved closer, she turned, her eyes wide with surprise and something else, something hard to place. As I reached them, the shadow began retreating, further into the depths of the trees. I felt drawn to it, somehow achingly familiar, but I shook my head. "Let us go," I shouted, grabbing Jenna's hand. She hesitated for a heartbeat, but the expression on her face told me she also felt the pull to linger just as the children had. "I want to leave you here," I insisted, tugging her toward the exit of the clearing that we broke through the overgrown path that led back to the safety of the gathering building where we'd begun. The woods felt alive, they whispered and laughed behind us, but they couldn't hold on to us any longer. Emerging back into the faint streetlights felt like stepping into a different world that I took a deep breath, staring into the shadows behind. Did you see them?" Jenna asked, breathless and wide-eyed. "I did," I said, still holding her hand tightly. "We need to tell someone. They need to know." "But what really happened?" she asked, uncertainty clouding her features. "Was it real?" I didn't have an answer. The encounter felt heavy and surreal, like a dream that lingered in my mind but offered no coherent explanation. Was it all in our heads, or was there something darker lurking in those woods? The laughter echoed in my mind once more, another piece of the puzzle undone. "I don't know," I admitted, glancing back one last time. The shadows danced and shifted, whispering secrets I couldn't quite grasp. "But it follows us now. We can't ignore it." And as we walked away, the weight of everything we'd encountered settled into my chest. Whatever had been awakened in Redwood National Park couldn't be contained. I had escaped, but how long that escape would last, I couldn't be sure.